Recording's on, going live.
Okay, everyone in the audience, we're going to get started in about a minute. We'll give people a chance to log in and get settled. Darwin, you good? You look like you have your robe next to you. This is nice.
My robes of distinction.
Yes.
All these daggone degrees and debt associated with it.
I think at this point you've made all sorts of cash, so that all that debt that's taken care of, I'm sure.
That would be no, bruh. That would be no.
So all of my love, my peace and happiness, I want to give to Omega. So as you can hear, I cannot sing. I cannot sing, but in 1982, in the spring, I pledged with two other brothers, Mickey Graham, who was on the football team, Chip Jordan, who was in the comm school. And you may not believe it, but they could not sing worse than me. So we had my line was 3, which was about average for that time, and pretty much it was in keeping with our status to this day, that we're the few and the proud, which makes it totally amazing that in the 48 years of the Lambda Zeta chapter of Omega Psi Phi that we have produced so many doctors, at least 10 MDs and dentists within the 48 years of Lambda Zeta. So we certainly had a lot of choices for the seminar. So that being said, good evening. My name is William Strudwick, and I'll be your moderator for this session. Welcome to this third in a series of 1-hour sessions where distinguished alumni of the University of Virginia return virtually to share some of what they've realized since graduation, especially what we wish we had known as undergrads. We always dream about going back with the knowledge that we had. So hence the title of the seminar is What We Know Now, I Wish I Knew Then. Personally, I graduated from UVA in 1984. I went to Howard University College of Medicine and graduated in 1988 and completed my residency in emergency medicine in 1991. I practiced emergency medicine in Washington, D.C. for 30 years, including 15 years as the medical director of a level 2 trauma center. And I'm currently the chief medical officer of a hospital in Southeast Washington, D.C. All of us tonight, we have been in your shoes. We know your time is limited. We know it's around exam time. So tonight's panel format is designated to pack a lot of useful information into one hour. Each night, we have taken on a different profession in these seminars, with medicine as the focus tonight. These sessions are under the Omega Success Express banner, sponsored by the alumni of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, who pledged at the Lambda Zeta chapter as undergraduates at the university. The Lambda Zeta chapter has a reputation throughout our fraternity of being sharp and effective, and we hope to bring those attributes to this series. Our objective is for you to come away with useful information that will make you more successful in whatever professional path you take. So let's meet our panel. So the first thing I want to do is I want to introduce everybody. I want everybody to acknowledge their brief introduction, and then we'll go around and have everybody speak a little bit. We have graduates from each decade. I represent the 80s, and I'll first introduce them all by their decades. Brother Darwin Hayes represents the 90s. Darwin is the dental director of the state of New Jersey. He's a 1991 graduate of the University School of Architecture. His dental degree is from the University of Maryland, and he has a master's in healthcare administration from George Washington University. So Darwin, if you acknowledge yourself.
There you go. Thanks for having me tonight. Looking forward to talking to everybody.
Thank you, thank you. Second, representing the 2000s is Brother Marco Ellis, who is an assistant professor and associate residency program director of plastic and reconstructive surgery at Northwestern University. He completed his specialty training in craniofacial plastic surgery and microvascular reconstruction at Johns Hopkins Hospital. So speaks for itself. Marco.
All right, pleasure to meet everybody. Excited to see what we can accomplish this evening.
All right, last but not least, representing the 2010s is Stafford Brown. Yeah, I'll call him young Staff because, of course, his father is a 1992 graduate of the university, a physician, a renowned radiologist. Young Staff is a 2017 graduate of the university, so he'll be giving us the freshest information that we'll be getting tonight. He's a third-year medical student at Eastern Virginia Medical School. Also, he'll be taking this upcoming academic year away from medicine to get started on his MBA at William and Mary's Mason School of Business. And another important point, he was a Spanish major at UVA. So,
hello, everybody. I'm looking forward to having this panel and talking to you guys and sharing some of the things that I wish I had known a couple of years ago.
Very good. So, Brother Hayes, take a few minutes to tell us about your career path. You know, certainly weave in what you wish you had known as an undergrad. And personally, I would like to know how architecture translated to dentistry, and also about your transition from direct patient care to health policy.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So I'm just going to start off saying that I'm the crazy bunch. I'm the crazy one of the bunch, and I'm probably the most non-traditional of the bunch as well. As Brother Strudwick mentioned, that I graduated from the School of Architecture in '91. Yes, architecture, not pre-med, not pre-dental, but architecture. And I actually worked in DC for about 3 or 4 years before deciding to go into dentistry. Do have some dental legacy in my family. My uncle, my mom's brother, is a dentist, graduated from Meharry in the early 70s. And my dad is a dental technician. He is the lab technician, the person that actually fabricates and makes a lot of the dental appliances to help restore your bite, your function, etc. And my transition to medicine from the architectural school was just based off of my love and passion for really family. I was at a family reunion one time in the DC area with my uncle, who's like a big brother and a positive, big positive role model. And in addition to my dad, he was the influencer, right? He was the one that I always kind of wanted to be with, but I didn't, be like, but I didn't realize that until 4 years of architecture school and 3 or 4 years of working, right? And we were talking, and at the time I was working in construction management and with a company in the DC area that was a family-owned business. And just through the dynamics of family, that family business, it made me think about, well, what about my own family business? And at the time I was looking for a career change, and dentistry seemed to be the most natural change for me, especially with an uncle and a father already in the profession. Spoke to him about it. He said, yeah, why not? You've already got the artistic and creativity. You're good with your hands, hand-eye coordination. You just got to go back now and take them sciences that you didn't take. And that was something, working 50 hours a week and taking classes at night and over the weekend to get my prerequisites applied to University of Maryland, where there were some other University of Virginia grads already at the dental school. That was helpful. Got into dental school, and the rest was history. Pretty much did my 4 years at the University of Maryland in Baltimore. Did a residency, a hospital-based residency in New York. Joined the Air Force. I was a captain and dental officer in the Air Force, where I got a chance to travel to Korea. I was stationed in Las Vegas, and also stationed in the DC area at the Pentagon, at the only medical tri-service health center in the world, really. It's at the Pentagon. And that was all during the time of 9/11. It was the 1-year anniversary of 9/11. After that, I had a chance to get into private practice. I left active duty service and got into private practice in Houston. Went back to Vegas for some time, and then eventually landed in LA, of all places. Opened up a practice in LA for about 3 or 4 years. Ended up having to come back to New Jersey for a family emergency, and got reconnected with my dental residency program. They were looking for some help in starting a night clinic. Did that for a year or two, and then was elevated to a position to be a program director, residency program director. And at the time, we had the second largest dental residency program in the country, in the Bronx, about 15 blocks north of Yankee Stadium. And did that for about 7 to 8 years before taking on the role that I currently have now as state dental director for the Department of Health for the state of New Jersey. So it's been a wild ride, very interesting, and I got stories upon stories upon stories upon stories. But I'm gonna let the other chapter brothers talk as well. So that's a brief snippet of my background, and I'll talk some more about what I wish I knew.
Okay, so I just have one question for you. Just translating architecture into dentistry, and I know if any of us had any roommates or suite mates that were in the architecture school, we knew how grueling that was. And in my time, I guess it was well before computer graphics, they had to create models. They had to cut up little things and make models. And I was always amazed at what they could accomplish, even at the very beginning of their schooling, first year, second year. How did that translate to dentistry?
Well, you hit it right on the head, bro. Really, it was being able to translate and create in the 3-dimension, right? And also being able to have hand-eye coordination, and also manual dexterity as it relates to real finite movements, because this area is very small. A lot of the decisions and things that we do is based off of millimeters, not centimeters, not inches, not yards, not those larger measurements that we had in the School of Architecture, but we're talking microscopic millimeters. And so that attention to detail that was in the architecture program and creating those types of those models and plans translated very naturally for me, of having and being very meticulous, right, and that high attention to detail as well.
Okay, thank you so much. So listen to the audience. If you have any questions as we go along, don't hesitate, go to the Q&A tab and just place your questions, pose your questions in there. Or in the chat, and then we'll transfer them over to the Q&A. Brother Ellis, tell us about your path to academic medicine, and certainly to plastic surgery. And I have my question, that I have to start with. I specifically would love to know, at such a young age, how did you receive an education award from Northwestern University called the Marco Ellis Legacy Award for Diversity? How did that happen?
Yeah, that was, I'll get into it, but yeah, that was definitely unplanned and a special achievement. And it was just an opportunity to help out, but I'll get into it in just a second. My career path into medicine was a little more orthodox for what it's worth, in the sense that I entered into college, with a strong understanding that I was going to do something in medicine, whether or not it was delivering patient care or being involved in research or translational care. So I always kind of knew my pathway. It was just a matter of trying to get some clarity. And, going through the ranks, it was pretty much just your routine, steps that I think many of our, people who have signed on, our audience, are familiar with. As I have kind of matriculated through the system, what I was always trying to do was give myself the best opportunity to succeed, and that may sound generic, but as I was looking at medical schools and finishing up my time at UVA, I wanted to be at a program where I felt diversity was emphasized, and that definitely led my sort of series of applications in med school and where I eventually went. And I continue with that same mindset. And that's basically almost a theme to my early career. I'm just 42 and been in practice now for 8 years. And I continue to feel like I'm growing every day and just starting to kind of understand a little bit based on my experience. Specifically, as I kind of went through my early med school and into residency, my pathway was always sort of dictated by surgery. I just had a sense that it was a place that I felt comfortable. It was very problem-oriented, very unique opportunity and place to be able to deliver care and to answer questions and to help people immediately, as opposed to other specialties where it's more of a longitudinal relationship with patients. So always drawn to surgery, always drawn to anatomy, and it was a matter of just kind of figuring out which subspecialty kind of clicked with me. I, eventually went into plastic and reconstructive surgery for a variety of reasons. I think the biggest of which is its relative creativity. It's one of the few specialties that doesn't have an organ system. It's not orthopedics, not cardiac surgery. We basically are innovators in the hospital, and our job is to support the other surgeons. Whether that's, for me, more so the ENT surgeons, neurosurgeons, oral surgeons. That's more of what I do on a more daily basis, but it's a very unique specialty that's basically almost an adjunct service, and one where it really emphasizes sort of concepts and having bits of information about each specialty that you can draw from. I look back on my early years and I feel like, things have gone well, but I'm excited to be in this panel to, tell you some things that I've learned that I feel like would have made my pathway a little more simple. But definitely an emphasis for me as I've gotten into academic medicine has been diversity and inclusion. And that was at a time when it wasn't as vogue. And that's part of what led to this, quote unquote, legacy award. When I first started residency.
You're 42, what's your legacy?
Exactly. Hey, I agree. I'm just trying to help people out. But I will say, I'll say when I started residency at Northwestern in 2005, which is recent, that's not like, some historical number. In 2005, there was a handful of Black residents. There was just basically no underrepresented minorities within the residency system. It was just ones and twos each year on an island, blazing trails each and every year. And I just thought that was absurd, and used basically all the resources I could muster to try to create programming for underrepresented minorities and residents at Northwestern. So we were able to basically get a budget, and on an annual basis within my time of residency over about a 7-year time course, create almost an office at Northwestern that now, thrives along with, faculty affairs groups and residency sort of affairs groups that allow, more interaction, focus on retention, recruitment. And we made great strides to the extent that now the residency programs across Northwestern now have more than 10 to almost 15% underrepresented minority groups in the hospital, which when I was there, it was literally, 1 to 2%. So we've that was just something I was excited to be a part of, and I was rewarded sort of randomly with some named, plaque that had nothing to do with my interest, and that's something I continue to be involved in today. And I'm happy that, if anything, it's now getting more attention, nationally, to try to boost, Blacks within science, technology, and medicine. So I'll let everyone else kind of continue to chit chat, but then I definitely have, a variety of things that I feel like not necessarily mistakes, but ways to have simplified my pathway into plastic surgery.
Thank you so much. So just a quick question, like it sounds like you're a role model and have clearly been a role model for, minority people in the medical field. What role models did you have or sponsors that you had along the way? How did you connect with them? How did you realize they were your role models? How did you take advantage of the relationship?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably number one on my list is the fact that what I understand now is that mentorship is what propels a person's career, and I continue to thrive on that today. I always have 2 or 3 people that are, that I need to hear feedback from when it comes to career decision making. And I learned that while I was in medical school, but I almost wish I had heard that information beforehand as an undergraduate. That's one thing that I definitely emphasize, that even at an early stage, you have to have role models. You have to have someone to aspire to be. Maybe not so much to have a, exact replica of their career, but to realize that what you anticipate for yourself is actually possible, and that you can exceed those expectations. For myself, I was the first one in my family to go into medicine, didn't have that direct relationship. So foolishly, I kind of led myself, and that's not so much something I regret, but I know that my pathway would have been more clear and more straightforward if I had someone, 1 or 2 years ahead of me, 3, 4 years ahead of me, kind of coaching me along, even as an undergraduate. And that's, something that I've always emphasized as I've gotten older, and trying my best to create bridges to help those behind.
Yeah, seeing is believing, right?
Absolutely.
Seeing is believing, and that mentorship piece is key. Is very key.
Right.
Agreed.
So listen, I want to remind everybody to, if you have any questions, put it in the QA box, hit the QA box and ask questions. Just before we get to you, young staff, I just, one thing that has been brought up is everybody's talking about service. And when you talk about medicine and a medical career, I think some people don't understand that it really is all about service and humbly serving other people. You really have to get close to people. You have to get interested in their lives and details, and lower yourself to be able to give them what they need. It's not a prestige job. It's not a money job, even though you'll never be broke, but it's not a big money job. It's a job that you really have to understand that you are going to serve. And as long as you understand that, you'll have a long, fulfilling career. But that's truly what it's about. So young staff, MD coming up, MBA coming up. That's, a while. How did you get where you are? And I'm also intrigued about your Spanish major in undergrad. I'm intrigued about your interest in global health. And as I said, you're going to be giving us the freshest information. One thing that I just was told recently, that Howard University's acceptance rate to medical school is 3%. So it's extremely difficult to get into medical school. So I'm sure you're going to tell us a little bit about what you did, the path that you took, how you did it. So give us some knowledge.
Okay. First, I want to echo mentorship and just say how important it is. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here today, is because I did reach out to mentors ahead of me. I wish I had reached out more, and that is my biggest takeaway, is that I should have kind of talked to more mentors, and it would have been easier on me as I went along on my journey. I also, as a medical student, looking back at what I could have done at UVA, I wish I had joined DHW, Daniel Hill Williams Pre-Medical Honor Society. but I wish I was more involved. I going to medical conferences now, I see all those UVA students that I was there at UVA with, having that experience of going to a medical conference, getting it paid for, and meeting other medical students, meeting admissions officers, meeting residency program directors, and that's something that I missed out on. So I'll talk a little bit about my path. Both of my parents went to UVA for undergrad and for medical school. So I knew this was exactly what I wanted to do, but I wasn't really sure what I wanted to major in. In high school, I had always loved Spanish and had gone on a service trip to Nicaragua for a week, and then also gone to Argentina for 3 weeks on an exchange program. So when I got to UVA and I placed out of most of the Spanishes, I decided to just continue with Spanish as a major. I didn't know like how useful, like I knew it would be useful to me, but I didn't truly like understand it until after UVA when I started to use it more in a medical setting. So once again, I was a Spanish major, and both of my roommates at the time were sociology majors. So then I picked up a sociology minor just because I felt like those classes were a nice, a little bit easier than the sciences that I was taking.
Don't say that. You can't tell them that.
It's useful information. Like for me, I was never the strongest at the sciences. So I knew if I was taking a hard science that semester, I needed to take other classes that I knew I could get an A in to kind of pad my GPA, and that wouldn't take away much time from my general chemistry that I struggled in so much. So towards the end of my UVA career, around third, fourth year, I've been meeting with Dean Bassett in the Office of African American Affairs and Dr. Prey, and realized that I needed to take a gap year because my grades weren't there. I was not ready to apply to medical school. I had taken some of the summer classes over the summer, but I still needed to take, if I was going to apply to medical school that year, I would have applied with, while still taking courses, and would have been late in the cycle. And I didn't understand how important that was until I listened to their advice and applied to master's programs and took the MCAT. And then I really understood more about the cycle in my master's program. So I ended up doing a master's in biomedical sciences post-bac program at Eastern Virginia Medical School, which was a 1-year program. Jumped right in and started with the first year of medical school curriculum. And you took it with a real grade, whereas the medical students were taking on like an honors high pass system. So there were times where we would be in the library studying, and I'd be studying with the medical students, and then they would kind of get up and say like, "Oh, okay, I'm going home for the night." But I knew the information, but I knew it that I didn't know it at an A level, and that was what was going to be required to get into medical school. In my program, about 30 to 40% of us got into Eastern Virginia Medical School for medical school. And I knew that was probably going to be my best option because I applied to medical school at the same time as the program. So when other medical schools are looking at my application, I was later in their cycle because they wanted to see my first semester at EVMS's grades, which means they weren't really looking at my application until January. Now that I'm on the EVMS admissions committee, I know that by January, you've already been interviewing people for months. The class is most likely already full. So that's what I think kind of led to me not getting into many other schools or getting into any other schools other than EVMS. But during my time at EVMS as a medical master student, I got involved with the medical Spanish program, where we would do like lunch and learn sessions and meet with community members, practice our Spanish. And then I got involved with the HOPES Clinic, which is the Health Outreach Partnerships of Eastern Virginia Medical School students. And that's our free clinic that we do for the uninsured and underinsured in Norfolk, Virginia. We also have Clinica Esperanza. For anyone who does Spanish, Esperanza is the translation for hope. So it's the HOPES Clinic, but it's all in Spanish for all of our Spanish speaking patients. So after a little bit of training, I was able to start being an interpreter in the clinic, and then working as a junior clinician when I got into medical school in the clinic, and doing those patient encounters fully in Spanish made that Spanish major completely worth it. So now I'm currently a third year medical student at EVMS, and I'm going to be the first student to do our MD MBA program with William and Mary. So I'm looking forward to that, and I start the MBA this summer.
So was that something that you applied for when you applied to medical school, both MD and MBA?
So some schools, they do have it that way. At EVMS, the way that we did it is you applied during your third year of medical school. So I applied earlier this year, and then you do your first 3 years of medical school. You take a break that summer, do the MBA from summer to summer, and come back for your fourth year of medical school.
Right. So in my experience, a lot of young medical school candidates are doing the master's programs before they go to school. It's almost like it's required, as I mentioned, 3% acceptance rate. So your application has to be super strong. So is there anything that you would tell people that are in undergrad now, maybe their first, second year, and they're kind of planning? Is there anything that you would tell them now about how to make themselves the most attractive that they can be for medical schools?
Yes. One, service is really important, but also your grades are very important. I didn't take, I took all the required courses, but I didn't take it as seriously as I needed to. And that's what led to me ending my time at UVA and needing to go to a master's program. I usually don't, my recommendation for people when they get to that third, fourth year at UVA or in college, when it comes to looking at programs, you do a program for what you need in your application, not because you want to do a program, not because you think it'll look better for medical school. You do a program for what you need. What I needed was to fix my GPA, so that's why I did the program. If you have a good GPA and you're applying and the only thing that's bad is your MCAT, then wait till the next cycle, take an MCAT course. And even if you spend $5,000 on an MCAT course, you're not spending $60,000 on a master's program that you didn't need. So that's one thing I would say is important. And also just kind of looking back at the mistakes I made, my first semester at UVA was the only C- I got in any of the science classes. I got a C- in Gen Chem, and fast forwarding to my fourth year, I'm studying for the MCAT, and I'm realizing that I'm just not focused enough, and that I'm going down into the underground, into the library and Alderman and Clark. And when I come up for lunch, I'm socializing too much, and I'm not getting the studying that I need to get done. And I realized it was my last semester at UVA. I only needed like 5 credits left. So I dropped down to a part-time student. I moved to Richmond with my grandparents, lived with them, and then came back to UVA on Tuesday and Thursday for my 2 classes. And once I knocked out the MCAT, I had that free time to enjoy the rest of my college experience, only to get the conditional acceptance during the master's program, because I had a C-, and at the time you couldn't apply to medical school or the master's program with a C-, and a C had to be a C or better in every course. So I finished up my exams at UVA. I came back home to Chesapeake, started taking Gen Chem 1 again at ODU. Had to finish up and miss class one day to come back to UVA for graduation weekend. Didn't get to stay at graduation weekend the whole time because I had to come back for an exam that Monday. And that kind of all could have been avoided had I have taken it more seriously from the beginning and listened to those mentors who said, like, knock out these grades. This is what's important. At the end of the day, I'm happy that it all worked out this way because I can tell my story. But those are mistakes that I don't think.
Let me tell you, college for some people, and it's not the same for everyone, but to me, you go from being a kid to a serious adult. That's what college is all about. So at some point, the light bulb's going to go off, and you're going to say, hey, I really have to buckle down. And it's at different time for different people, which does, for medical school, it puts some people at a disadvantage because the grades from the very first day, have some bearing on whether you're going to be able to get into medical school. So Marco, you're in academic medicine. So you're actually at some point or another, maybe even now, you're looking at these applications, like, and you're seeing the level of competence that these kids have that are applying for medical school. Like, what would you say? What would you say to any undergraduates that are in the audience right now about that, and what you would have been done differently, or what you see now that's necessary that may not have been necessary when you were applying?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. As we sort through applications, I think what staff had just mentioned is utmost. A large portion of your application as an undergraduate is your academic performance. I mean, it is a reflection of your time spent. And I would, in my estimation, as I sort through applications, that's what I focus on, is transcripts. Obviously, that is then supplemented by board scores, MCATs, service, and research. But I would say your primary emphasis as a student just has to be on focusing and getting the best grades absolutely possible. And that's easy to say, just do well. But what that means, and that was something I learned for myself, is that you have to approach your exams, your assignments, in a way that is going to get you your best grades. It's not so simple as saying study harder. For me, I was part of all sorts of study groups. I basically aligned myself with a guy. We just went through it all together through our undergraduate courses, just trying to make sure we could continue to bounce ideas off each other, check each other's sort of assignments, collaborate, so that we could do our absolute best. It is obviously you take your exams alone, but there are other aspects to your classwork that you can rely on others. And I would tell you that is key. And that's something I continue to do today. I mean, that mindset carries forward into practical medicine. I see patients with complex care. I enlist other physicians who have different ideas. There's no way I can solve all these problems on my own. So transcripts, absolutely huge. Won't deny that. But I do feel like if there's any small change that has happened maybe over the last, I guess I'll say 20 years, because that's when I graduated from college. It is now a larger emphasis on research if you have an interest in going to, a top 10, top 20 medical school. The admissions counselors want to see not only, hey, I did some volunteer work at the cardiac ICU and some transport, but they want to see that you are beginning to sort of invest yourself in research, whether that is, basic science, to mental health. I mean, basically the full spectrum is available, but they want to see that you're excited about the scientific method, trying to publish, trying to gain more experience. And I would say that's, if anything, a trend that is just continuing, over these last few years.
I also want to echo that.
Go ahead.
I was going to echo that as well, just saying that research is definitely very important. Having been on the EVMS admissions committee for the last year, that's something that I've seen is definitely important. And another thing to know is know the school that you're applying to and know what's important to them. Like Dr. Ellis said, like the top 10, top 20 programs, they really care about research. And always look at the school and find what their mission statement is, find what their values are, what their vision is, because those are things that you're going to want to know when you're going into your interview, or know when you're putting together your application. For example, with EVMS, their vision is to be the most community-oriented medical school in the US. So if you have not done a lot of community service, if you're not able to talk about your service and how that is important, then this isn't the best place for you to apply to. But if that's something that you're very passionate about, then this is the place that you want to apply to. You want to know that, you want to be ready to talk about it when you get to that area.
the older brother, other doc on the call. I just want to echo some of the things that have been said. You know, in dentistry is very similar. And having been a residency program director at a large residency program, and having seen dental students applying to residency programs, but also catching them 4 years beforehand when they're applying to dental school, there's a lot that goes on to this pre-med, pre-dental process. And one of the things that is very key that I coach and train pre-dental students all the time is, in addition to the community service that is mandatory as part of your candidacy and part of your application, you also need to tap in to those resources where people have already done the things that you're looking to do, namely apply to med school, apply to dental school, apply to pharmacy school, right? And the best place for that to start is typically in undergrad. At UVA, there's the Daniel Hale, Pre-Med Society?
Yes.
Unfortunately, there was not a dental society. And me and a couple of classmates from both UVA and Maryland, University of Maryland Dental School, that are dentists, that's one of the things that we're looking to do, because even though medical school and dental school are somewhat similar, at least the first 2 years of dental school is the same curriculum as far as basic sciences that it is in medical school. Even though there's some similarities, there are also some differences. So as a candidate, it starts that first year, first semester of UVA. And you need to be tapped into organizations that have upperclassmen that have already figured some of the information out, upperclassmen that are already applying to not only pre-med and pre-health profession institutions, but also they know the resources, right? Virginia is in a unique position in the sense that throughout the whole state of Virginia, with all the different undergrad schools, there are a lot of schools that have specific programs to help you get into medical school. Hampton has one. I think Hampton has a pre-med track that has 7 different options to get you into med school, all with affiliations with Eastern Virginia, where staff is going, BU, Howard, and there's some other institutions. So this whole process of getting into med school and becoming a doctor, or getting into dental school and becoming a doctor, an oral physician, as I call it, starts very early in the process. And you must surround yourself with people that are like-minded, that are going to be doing the same thing, have those same type of aspirations. And you've got to surround yourself with those people, because that's where the information is, right? That's where the money resides. But that's where the pre-med, pre-dental, get into those program knowledge resides, with those organizations. And that's key. So I wanted to share that as well for those that are listening and contemplating and thinking about this pathway.
Thank you so much. And, I can tell you, I was in a different day and time. It wasn't as competitive. So I did have those first 2 years in undergrad where I wasn't quite as focused, but certainly did buckle down my, 3rd and 4th year, but I was kind of doing it on my own. Like, I would go in the library, I would spend a lot of hours, and I would study, thinking I was studying the correct way, and did have some success and was able to do decently on the MCATs. But for me, it didn't start until 3rd year. Now, one thing that I can say, when I went to medical school, my first set of tests, I didn't do so well. I barely got through them. I can tell you the day after I got those results back, I walked into the library, I saw a group of people and I knew that they had done well on the first test. And I literally told them, I'm going to be with you for the next 4 years. I literally sat down next to them and it became their best friends. And those people that I walked in and sat next to those days became some of my friends to this day. They're some of my best friends. But we together fought for our collective success and did well together. And we collected information. We had tests. We had we knew the trends of the different professors just because there was enough of us to get information from here and there in different places. So yeah, it is about and we're talking about mentors, but sometimes mentors are sitting right next to you, right? So I want to answer a question. We have young Sterling Bowers. Some people may recognize that name. I do. I know he's a medical student and a great connection to our fraternity. And Sterling asked, when searching for mentors and role models in the medical field, what is the best way to approach potential mentors? And I just sat next to them. But I'm sure, Darwin, do you have any other advice about approaching mentors or choosing mentors?
Yeah, I mean, first you have to do a little research, right? In the sense that you need to find out about those potential mentors, their pathway, and then it's just you just have to be very humble and be like, hey, Dr. Hayes, I'm looking to go to med school. I'm looking to become a dentist, go to dental school. I need some help. And this is where I'm at. This is what I'm thinking of. Can we sit down or arrange some time so we can talk so I can learn a little bit more about your pathway to dentistry or your pathway into medicine? And I will tell you, most of us that have gone through this process have not done it alone, have not done it without help. So most of us are more than willing to help. Will you throw that, I need some help, words and narrative out there? It's usually very, very powerful. And it's almost words that most people who have gone through it realize that they need to answer the call and help them, right? Help that aspiring new doctor or new dentist or new physician along the way. And I think that would be one of the ways to that you approach potential mentors. Now, keep in mind, not everybody is up for mentorship. Not everybody's up for mentorship, and that's okay. Everything's not for everybody. Everybody's not for everything. Nothing wrong with that. But I think if you initiate the process through those words that I shared, you'll be able to distinguish which people could possibly help you. And if they can't help you, you ask them, well, anyone else that you may, any of your colleagues, former classmates that would be interested in sharing their story, and you ask them for other referrals as well. And you can't stop. You can't be shy. You can't be, well, what is he gonna think about me if I ask for help? Look, you ain't got time for that. You got to get into med school. You got to get into dental school. You got to get into farm school. And time is of the essence.
Right. Thank you so much. Listen, I just want to kind of present something and kind of see what everybody has to say about this. I love being in the medical field. I love being a doctor. I love having the practical knowledge that people need when they're truly in stress or distress. I think it's been fulfilling. My career has been 30 years so far. I'm still excited about it. still excited about the interaction in the emergency department. When I start my shift, when I have students and residents with me, I tell them, listen, today we're going to have the opportunity to affect the lives of 18 to 20 people, make a difference in their lives. So it's truly been worth it for me. And a lot of times people ask that question, is it worth it to go through all this? I mean, we're probably scaring people today. You have to start from day one doing this and X, Y, and Z, and you have to have the grades. But for me, it certainly it's not for everybody, but for me, it certainly is worth it. Marco, what do you think?
Good point. Good point.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I guess that was also one of the things I wanted to pass on about what I know now that is, helpful to know early on, is that you have the ability to kind of manipulate your destiny. You don't have to, there's not just a cookie cutter approach to being a physician or a dentist. You have the ability to carve out the career that you're interested in. Obviously, it takes work and dedication to get to that, but you have that ability. You can be part-time, you can be full-time, you can be in academic medicine, you can be in private practice, you can be a hospital employee position, you can do consulting, you can, basically the sky is the limit. And it doesn't always mean that you have to be on the front lines every day, seeing 50 patients in an office and maybe not having the career satisfaction that you think that you will want. But having that ability to carve out your sort of interests and meet get the job satisfaction you're looking for, you have direct input into it. And that's why medicine is so exciting for so many people who participate. For me, my setup is probably 80% clinical, but then 20% of it is education and research. And I think that's that's just an outstanding mix. I can't get enough of it. But I imagine as I get older, I want to have that flexibility to do more things and to adjust that percentage. So that's just something to kind of consider as you kind of walk through the process, that there will be several sort of branch points that you can make. I did want to say one thing to the previous question, just a small add-on, is that, I think there's basically two types of opportunities or two types of mentorships, or however you want to think about it. There are those that are given to you that you're fortunate to have, and then there are those that are self-directed based on initiative. And unless you have a family full of physicians or come from well-off means, you have to work and create your own. And that just requires humility and the ability to, and the understanding that you're going to be told no sometimes. That's okay, and ultimately it will just enable you over time to be able to be a stronger person and to get where you want. So.
Yeah, a no today means a yes tomorrow. So you keep pushing.
So we have an anonymous question. And I think maybe Stafford would be the perfect person to answer this question. And that question is, what's the best way to prepare for your boards or MCAT?
The best way is honestly through practice questions and familiarizing yourself with the test. That's one thing that took me a while to learn. But now in medical school, I'm going to the questions first. Yes, you need to learn the material, but by the time you're taking the MCAT, you've taken a year's worth of bio, a year's worth of chem, that orgo, that physics, all of that. Yes, you need to do your content review, but you definitely need to start taking practice exams once a week or once every 2 weeks. Definitely more like once a week when you get down to the end. And then just doing question blocks, learning why you're getting the questions wrong, having a notebook and writing down, physically writing down, why did I get this wrong? Is this a content issue or did I misread the question? Finding where your errors are coming from is going to help you not make them on further questions. One of the things is you can know all the information and still get these questions wrong because you're not familiar with the test. It sounds ridiculous, but it's true. And always find the resources that work for you. A lot of people take prep programs. I took a Kaplan course. Now I primarily use UWorld. I think it's great. Find the course that works for you. They also have Khan Academy, which has free resources, and use those resources. Everyone else is using them, so you need to use them as well. Find out what works for you and get those questions done. Also,
I
reach
just-
out to. I was just saying, reach out to other people who are studying for the MCAT at the same time, or upperclassmen who've already taken it.
And I just want to add repetition, right? Repetition, repetition. If you haven't taken the MCAT or the DAT before, then you don't even know what you don't know. So even more reason why you must, and I just tell everybody applying to dental school, you've got to take a prep course because this is your first time that you've taken this exam. And this exam is not like any exam that you've had before in undergrad or high school. This is a high stakes exam. And even though there are quote unquote, what do you call it, admissions? What's the admissions term, Brother Dr. Marco? Not
Holistic
universal
review.
admissions.
Holistic review. Is that what you're-
Holistic, even though there's holistic review and holistic admissions, I'll tell you what, if you have a less than holistic exam score on that MCAT, you will be holistically at home. Okay? That exam score is very important in addition to everything else, even though, you know, it's holistically a piece, but it's a very important piece that will lead to you not only getting into school, but also could be a pathway to going to medical school or dental school for free based on that score. So that score is high stakes. Don't waste your time not taking it seriously. You must take that exam or prepare for that exam like that is your life.
And
That is your full-time job.
Yeah, such a good point because those tests can get you cash. So very good point. So listen, Darwin, we only have a few minutes left. Are there any like final nuggets that you want to give to the audience?
Those that are watching now and will be watching this later, reach out. You don't have the time not to reach out. You have got to open your doors to everyone and ask for help. The smartest pre-dental, pre-medicine student in the room is the one that asks for help. Ask for help, get the help you need so that you can get into dental school, get into med school and become a doctor.
Awesome, awesome. Stafford, what do you got? Final words in
Final
Spanish.
words, in Spanish. No, I would also say reach out to those mentors who are ahead of you, as well as those people who are in the same boat as you, trying to get into medical school, trying to get into dental school. Those are going to be the people who are going to be around you pretty much for the rest of your life, whether you'll end up going to the same school or going to different schools. I see Sterling that you're watching. I know we talked at some point in undergrad, and then when I was in my master's program, then we talked in medical school. Now we're both on the regional board for the Student National Medical Association. So those are going to be the people who are long on that same journey with you. I saw something in the chat about what I want to do with my degrees long term, and the answer is honestly I'm not 100% sure yet. I do really like academic medicine, and I hope to be a dean of a medical school one day. I remember hearing one of the speeches the dean at UVMS gave, and he was telling us that he's not the dean and president because of his clinical work. He's the dean because he has that business knowledge, and that he can help our school stay afloat and grow and expand its cash flow, as well as provide excellent care for everyone. So that's what I'm thinking long term.
Thank you. And the youth will lead us, right? So,
Yeah.
Marco, final words.
Yeah, I would say, it's sort of hackneyed and lofty, but I would say aim high, and that just means even if your goal is to be a rural physician, which is great, we need those people. Even if you have more simple, straightforward goals, still do your best, because you don't know how your experiences may change, and you want to have all opportunities available to you. Try to approach it as if you want to go into the most, esoteric subspecialty, because you can always then use that energy that you've devoted to it, all of the resources, all of the accomplishments, to then carve out any smaller changes that you want. But basically just aim high, you know, and you'll find yourself having plenty of opportunities and plenty of choices.
All right, my brother. Okay, listen, this has been awesome. We expressed our gratitude to the panelists and to you, the audience. The brothers and alumni of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Lambda Zeta chapter wish to thank the Office of Fraternity and Sorority Affairs and the Office of African American Affairs for their assistance in bringing you this series of programs. We hope it benefits you in tangible ways as you consider your future career paths. May the success of these alums be an inspiration to you, as well as a reminder that we all stand on the shoulders of those that came before us. And we have an obligation to provide a hand to lift those that come next. We hope to see you in the future at another Omega Success Express event. Thank you, everyone.
Long live LZ.